call the Township Committee meeting to order. Amy, would you lead us in a pledge, please?
Sure. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Adequate notice of this meeting has been provided pursuant to the New Jersey Open Public Meetings Law by posting a notice of this meeting on the bulletin board in the municipal building and by sending a copy of the notice along with the agenda of this meeting to the Atlantic City Press, Atlantic County Record, Record Journal, and current newspapers stating this meeting would take place at 6:30 p.m. on Monday, February 2nd, 2015, at the municipal building, Mays Landing, New Jersey. Ms. Gatto? Here. Mr. Gishard?
Present.
Mr. Kurtz?
Here.
Mrs. Lenk?
Here.
Mayor Silva?
Here. At this time, I'd like to take a moment of silence for private reflection, and during that time, would you please keep in your thoughts Bobby Han, who died, resident. I'd like to move up on the agenda if there's no objection to it. Number 3, the addition and deletion of late items for consideration tonight.
So moved.
Second.
A motion is second. Any questions or comments? All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries. Okay, the next item on our agenda is the Honor and Remember Award presentation to Russell M. Bongiovanni Sr. And Amy, would you join me down in front? And Russ, would you come up with your wife and also Mike?
Mike Francis. Sure. Is it done? Very cozy. Very cozy. All right, we're. Don't go anywhere now. All right, tonight we're very excited to honor Russ Bongiovanni Sr. To give you a little bit of background on Russ, he enlisted in the U.S. Army in June of 1959, and his basic training took place at Fort Jackson, South Carolina. After his basic training, Russ attended an 8-week petroleum storage course in Fort Benning, Virginia. After that, Russ was sent to Fort Campbell, Kentucky, to attend paratrooper training with the 101st Airborne Division. Upon completing his airborne training, he was shipped overseas to the 8th Division in Germany. In Germany, Russ was attached to the Judge Advocate Corps, where he was the administrator for general court-martials and investigations involving German citizens and U.S. military personnel conducted within the 8th Division. Russ left Germany in June of 1962, arriving in the port of New York, where he was discharged from the U.S. Army. Russ's employment career started with the 7-Eleven food store, where he opened up their first store in New Jersey and created the national franchise system. After that, Russ worked with a number of national real estate franchise corporations, where he serviced over 400 franchise real estate offices in 11 states in the Northeast United States. He spent the last 20 years working with the Caldwell Banker real estate franchises in the states of New Jersey, PA, Delaware, and Virginia. He was an advisor to the Students Veterans Organization at Stockton College and has been a member of the Township of Hamilton Veterans Advisory Board. He is also a member of the American Legion, Post 352 in Summers Point. Russ and his wife, Teresa, have been married for 50 years as of May 8, 2015. They have some guy over here, Russ, who's his son, who is a retired policeman from our own Township of Hamilton Police Department. and a daughter, Taya Marie Bongiovanni Blanchard. Russ and Terry have 6 grandchildren from the ages of 10 to 24, and Russ and Terry have lived in our township for 26 years. Also, those of you who know Russ has also been quite an advocate for many policy issues here in the township of Hamilton, and has also often been a loud voice for many who are in the silent majority out there. And I know it's not always easy for us, but that's how we got to know each other. And I certainly got to learn a lot from you in that role, and I'm glad to call you my friend now. And with that, Mr. Mayor, you'll read.
Sure, and then you can present.
I will pin him while you're reading.
Okay, do that, please. It's a pleasure for us to present you the Township of Hamilton Honors and Remembers its veterans. Honor and remember, and you know well because you were instrumental in bringing this program to the forefront along with Doug Ham, who we honored at the last meeting. On this day, February 2nd, 2015, the Township of Hamilton honors Russell M. Bongiovanni Sr. in recognition and grateful appreciation for his service in the United States Army in the name of freedom and democracy, for the sacrifices he made and for his willingness to serve our country. Russell M. Bongiovanni Sr. endured hardships and was willing to risk his life to maintain our freedom. On behalf of the Township of Hamilton, we offer our heartfelt thanks and gratitude, and it's signed by all of the committee. Thank you, everyone. Thank you very much.
On behalf of Congressman Lobianco, I've got a personal letter and a citation. But first, I'd like to say, fellow enlisted leader, I appreciate the work that you do every day. You know, as an enlisted leader, it's all about maintaining standards, and you do it every day. And the rest of us are younger guys that you led the way for. You're one to be emulated. So, I have here a certificate. Attention to orders. Certificate of Special Congressional Recognition presented to Russell Bongiovanni, United States Army, in recognition of your outstanding and invaluable service while serving in the Armed Forces of the United States of America. Signed, Frank A. Lobianco, Member of Congress.
You normally don't say much, so you have.
30 seconds. Being a veteran and, most importantly, an American has been real important to me since the day I was born. I was fortunate enough to be in the military, enlisted in 59 to 62. It's the best thing I did in my life. I became a true American. I think every American, as far as I'm concerned, should be drafted. Look out, you young guys are in trouble. But I really believe that everybody should do some type of service. To me, a policeman is doing service. I think that's great. A fireman is doing service. And I appreciate what you guys and ladies and men do to help us. But we need more veterans helping themselves also. That's what I encourage. And again, it was a real privilege to be in the service and be a veteran, and helping other veterans is what I do with my days. Thank you very much.
Okay, the next item on the agenda is personnel. A, resolution promoting Paul P. Sorrentino to Deputy Chief of Police at $123,800 per year effective February 2nd, 2015, and authorizing the mayor to sign his employment agreement.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
A motion and a second. Any questions or comments? Rita, can we have a roll call, please?
Yes. Ms. Gatto?
Yes.
Mr. Gishard?
Yes.
Mr. Kurtz?
Yes.
Mrs. Link?
Yes.
Mayor Silva?
Yes,
All ayes and adopted.
thank you.
Bring them up for the...
Well, yeah, next is the administration of the oath of office to Paul Sorrentino. Paul, would you come down, please? And the chief.
Just stand there and be uncomfortable for a minute. First, I want to say welcome to everyone that's here for the promotion. And before we get started, I just want to thank committee for your commitment to maintaining the staff in the police department. it's critical to public safety and us performing our mission. So I just want to say thank you for that.
Thank you.
I want to tell you a little bit about Paul, for those of you that don't know him. Quite a bit to talk about. First, Paul's married to his wife Amy. They have 2 children, Paul and Sydney. I stole her candy once. We hired Paul in 1996. At the time, he had a bachelor's degree from Seton Hall University. He still does, I believe. He has a master's degree in administrative science from Fairleigh Dickinson University. He's a graduate of West Point Command and Leadership Program, which is a partnership between West Point Academy and the New Jersey State Chiefs of Police. He's also a graduate of the Royal Canadian Mounted Police Officer Development Program, which is at the RCMP Academy in Canada. Paul's also a graduate of the FBI National Academy. He's also an adjunct professor at the University of Wilmington in Delaware and instructs at satellite locations in South Jersey. Paul's also a previous lead instructor for the West Point Command and Leadership Program. There were only 2 lead instructors throughout the state, and Paul was responsible for South Jersey. And I don't think it's an exaggeration to say that he probably instructed hundreds of upcoming leaders in the law enforcement community in both South Jersey and some from Delaware. Paul's assignments have been patrol officer, detective sergeant, patrol sergeant. When he was promoted to lieutenant, he's been in the patrol division. He was in charge of internal affairs and support division. So those are just a few of the things that Paul has accomplished in his career, and he's a true asset, not just for the police department, but for the community. So with that, I think we can get started. Amy?
Rita, would you? John, what hand did they put in?
I, Paul Sorrentino, do solemnly swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of New Jersey, and that I will bear true faith and allegiance to the same, and to the governments established in the state and in this state, under the authority of the people. I do further solemnly swear that I will faithfully, impartially, and justly perform all the duties of the office of Deputy Chief of Police according to the best of my ability. So help me God.
There.
Speech. Speech. Speech.
Few words.
Yes, congratulations.
Best to you, Paul.
Thank you, sir. Steve.
Congratulations.
A long speech, I'll say thank you to the governing body, thank you, Administrator, thank you for being my family. Great opportunity, and appreciate the opportunity, hopefully serve you guys well. Thank you.
Anybody that wants pictures or just to shake his hand, if you make your way out to the lobby, we'll head out that way now.
Thank you, Chief. It was good.
Yeah, yes, it was. Surprised he left so quickly.
Yeah, interesting, isn't it? Okay, the next item on our agenda is we have a guest presentation by Assemblyman Vince Mazzio. Mr. Assemblyman?
First of all, thank you, Mayor and Hamilton Township Committee for having have this opportunity to come here and speak to you, give you an update on Atlantic City and what's going on as far as these bills that are proposed. If I could simplify it, make it a little bit easier, it's kind of all about numbers to me when we looked at this. And if you look in 2014 in Atlantic City, the casino gave about, or paid about $210 million to Atlantic City for property taxes. In 2015, it's estimated, with the foreclosures of the casinos, it'll be about $145 million. And this is without tax appeals, which some say could go to maybe $100 million, $110 million. So these bills that we proposed in the legislative, they're actually to stop the bleeding, if you will, of Atlantic City and to help Atlantic County as well. In this pilot program, the one bill, it's based on gaming revenue. If Atlantic City continues in where it's at between 2.2 and 2.6 billion, casinos will pay $120 million to Atlantic City government. But there's two other bills that are also with this package, which dissolve. One is to dissolve Atlantic City Alliance, which is $30 million, and then there's an additional $30 million from the AIT, which is the Investment Alternative Tax, that's paid to CRETA that will pay down the debt service to Atlantic City, which is somewhere estimated at between $250 and $300 million. So all in all, the first 2 years of this pilot program will be $180 million, and then after 13 years after that, it will be $150 million if the revenue stays at, say, $2.5 billion, which we're hoping. We don't know where exactly the bottom is here, but we're hoping that we're pretty close as far as the casinos. But I'm going to make this clear that these bills aren't perfect, but I believe it's the best solution right now for Atlantic City and Atlantic County. And the other part of it is, you have two sides of the balance sheet. So you have the revenue coming in, but you also have to cut costs. Atlantic City is proposing their budget to cut $15 million in 2015, plus the school budget is $13.5 million. And there's been some argument, and Mayor, you were at that meeting, about what Atlantic County has to do to cut their taxes. And my estimation in dealing with the county executive, and it's being a mayor a former mayor, you're a mayor, commitment. You provide services to your community, to your county, and you try to provide those communities every year. But when the revenue, when you don't have the valuations are going down, the revenue's not the same. That's what happened with Atlantic City, and we have a problem here. So it remains to be seen about the county part, but I was happy to see that Atlantic City and the county did come together as far as coming up with a solution or a percentage of what they will receive, which is 13.5. Now, again, in the legislation, the intent of the bill was this was supposed to be negotiable with Atlantic City and Atlantic County. You can't negotiate that into the bill, meaning put that 13.5% into the bill. If you think about it, it would become a problem because suppose if you wanted to negotiate it down the road, making it less or making it more, it's better to have the two parties to fast track it, because then you would have to go back to the state and change it. So I was happy to see that they came with that agreement. And the other part of it is, in about 2 weeks later, we had the summit meeting, the last summit meeting, where the emergency manager, the emergency consultant was appointed by the governor. And in that meeting, it was pretty clear that in 60 days, they're going to come back, come up with some recommendation what they want to do with Atlantic City. And of course, the one that's been thrown around is bankruptcy, which, we don't want to see that for a lot of reasons. But, that is on the table. But, I'm thinking that we can save that in some way. I'm being optimistic because of these bills and what the new mayor there, Mayor Gardner, I think he's doing a terrific job, and he's working with the council. So I think with all those players involved, I think we can work out a way that avoid a bankruptcy, because I don't think it'll be a good perception for Atlantic City as far as tourism and things of that nature.
Mm-hmm.
Last thing, and I come from, again, the municipal level, and we have to stabilize our property tax. It's very important. You can't do anything unless you stabilize the property taxes. In Atlantic City, they had a 53% increase in property taxes in the last 2 years. That's unsustainable. We have to fix that first so we can have investments in Atlantic City with the residents, with the businesses. There's legislation that was passed that put Economic Opportunity Act that made Atlantic City part of the growth center. It never was before. So once we stabilize the property taxes, I believe that businesses will be incentivized to come and invest in Atlantic City. I know you have a meeting tonight. If there's any questions, that's the update I have. And
Go ahead, Rodney.
Well, first of all, Senator, I'd like to thank you for coming out here. And I know you've been in office just a little bit over a year, and you've had your hands full with the things that are going on here now, and I'm glad to see you're tackling them. One of the things I was curious about is this appointment of a consultant, or an emergency management consultant. I remember reading about similar situations in Michigan and elsewhere where these people are appointed. They're not elected, they're appointed, and they take over. Well, in some of these other cases, I think the cities were in bankruptcy, but I'm curious how the law allows a non-elected official to come in and take over for someone who I think everybody says, the mayor of Atlantic City, has been doing a very credible job. So how does that work?
well, the way it was told to us in the summit, that it was statutorily has the power to appoint an emergency manager. Now, the devil's in the details, I guess, as far as what exactly emergency manager, what he can and cannot do. But the way it was discussed in there, that the emergency manager and consultant are going to work cooperatively with the mayor and council to do the best thing for Atlantic City and try to come up with these answers. I was under the same impression with you as far as the mayor and the council and everybody working together. I thought they were doing a good job. The governor feels that, and he said in the summit meeting, that we have to move quickly, more rapidly here. Perhaps, if you want to look at one part of the Mayor Gardner when he came in, maybe when he first came in, he
that might have to look at things differently, maybe cut things, but as the things went on, he certainly found himself in a bad situation. So, but I think that we're going to have to move more quickly, though, with this legislation, and the emergency manager and what he comes back with could be a different game changer. I don't know how this is all going to work as far as if they decide one thing as far as bankruptcy and things like that.
I think that there's several critical elements, though. One is they have to stop the appeal process. I mean, because if this legislation goes through the way you, and at least I did understand it that day, it would stop the appeal process.
Yeah, that's correct. Yeah.
The other thing is Atlantic City needs to have a predictable source of income that's going to meet whatever their outlay is. And obviously, I know they've got a big job to do on that side. That's why when, what I read and what you mentioned about the 60 days to come back, I mean, time is of the essence. Because as you know well, when you sat in the seat as mayor in Northfield, many of our municipalities are going to be struggling with their budgets this year. And the longer it goes, we don't want to keep passing temporary budgets. We like to get to the hardcore of what we're dealing with. So that's going to be critical. And obviously, I understand well what you say, and I know 60 days at the outside, would it maybe 30 or shorter on the inside to pass the legislation?
That's what my hope is. I'm working hard to work with leadership and get this where it has to go. When we first came out December with this legislation, quite frankly, it got very political. It got kicked around, and we got to stop that.
Sure.
Got to work in a bipartisan effort and just get this through as quick as possible, because too many people are relying on this. This is our livelihood. We're from Atlantic County. I was driving up here tonight. I'm in the produce business, fruit and produce business.
We saw the commercials, too, by the way. They're good.
I don't quit my day job, but, I can't. But I service a lot of restaurants and businesses in this area in Atlantic County, and it depends on it. And I depend on it. My family depends on it. So that's just one small business, and I have, 35 employees. So I have, as they say, skin in the game here, and,
Sure.
It's very important to me to do the right thing and try to push this legislation through. So I hear you, Mayor, and I've been in that position. And, another thing, too, in the municipalities, we have to pay the county 100%, we have to pay the schools 100%, but we don't always collect 100%.
Correct.
So,
And it was some very interesting comments we heard by an independent mayor at that meeting about talking to the county and what they have to do.
yeah, it has to be looked at. It has to be looked at.
So,
Mr. Mayor,
Please.
I would be remiss while we have an assemblyman here not to mention some of the, all politics is local. And while this is a major issue that will impact all of our residents, we do have some things that we keep harping on our state legislators that we are looking to do. And as the largest municipality in the state of New Jersey, we have roads are a major concern because we have so many roadways going through. And I think we mentioned it the last time you were here, that we're continually looking for some assistance on issues we're having on 322 with regard to some streetlight timing at one of our outlet streets. We're having issues with continued speeding problems on Route 50. We have plenty of death and accident information that continues to happen. So looking for traffic calming possibilities there. And I believe we had some issues on 40 that we were also looking
Yes.
to have corrected. So I know we continue to send information, and I'm sure as we do, every time somebody's here, we'll send a follow-up packet to your office with all the data. But just so that you remember when you leave Hamilton Township, that, we really need the continued focus from our state representatives on the state roadways, because it impacts us so much. I think the state has done a great job in terms of maintaining the highways this year, in terms of the cutting and maintenance and things like that. I think through the weather events that we've been seeing already, the trucks have been very present and out there on all of our roadways, so that's, I think, a great thing as well. But we do have some of the traffic issues that we have on those major roadways that are always at the forefront of our minds and resident complaints.
If anybody would be welcome to send me my
We will.
office.
We'll do that.
Exactly
Oh,
what you,
send it
You'll
to your
get it.
office.
and I'll take a look.
Yeah,
And I'd be remiss in not taking advantage of your prior position as a mayor to remind you that you have the understanding of the utility tax receipts that we don't get anymore. We have to do best practices. Having you in Trenton understanding that, and hopefully, I think, is there a bill now, or has anyone proposed a bill to try to return that to the municipalities?
One of them find there's a lot of bills, you know.
Yeah, I understand that.
And the problem, and, you know, and I've discussed this about this utility, you know, that's municipal's money.
Right.
That's correct.
It's municipal's money, and for some reason, the state said, we'll take it over, and then when they did it, when it started
They
getting
said, "We'll just
bad,
take it."
As far as they were gapping putting the plugs with that money in their own budget, which is wrong.
True.
If you think about it, if a lot of that money came back to the municipalities and to the schools, you know, you wouldn't have as much conversation as far as shared service and consolidation.
Correct.
Because fiscal responsibility, in a lot of ways, the smaller towns are more fiscally responsibilities. The bigger cities, in my, you know, view, they have the bigger problems. You know, you think about it.
Yeah.
But, you know, I'm right with you on that, and I'll,
Well, I'd appreciate it. That's why I thought I'd reach to you at this point, and I know you'll champion that in some respect that when you get back to Trenton or during your terms there.
I appreciate this
And I
opportunity.
appreciate your presence tonight. Thank
Roger,
you.
can I ask a question?
Please, if it's all right with the Assemblyman.
Well, did you have something first, Rodney?
No,
I do.
Judy did, go ahead.
I attended a meeting which introduced Atlantic County Action Now, you know, proposing that there will be economic development between business and government. What is your take on that? Or
I think it's a great idea. I think it was Howard Kyle.
Yes.
He's coming up with new ideas because you think about Atlantic City, that was our industry. We have to change that. We have to come out to the mainland and find different industries that we have to get people to and try to get things going. The big thing was the FAA and trying to push that. And, you know, that's at the end of where it has to be as far as the legal part. Hopefully that'll get some legs to it again and get that going. But it's time for change in this region. And this is a good start and a good way of trying to get different opportunities as far as different industries and getting different people here trying to get back to work.
Bob?
Vince, if the legislation passes, it's a pilot program, a payment in lieu of tax program. Does that affect residences in Atlantic City as well as businesses in the casinos with respect to the pending appeals?
Well, this is strictly geared towards the casinos.
Okay, because we all know that most of the casinos have multiple years under appeal. And the tax court just can't seem to catch up with it. None of it's going to trial with the exception of one.
I think the one is Borgata.
Yeah, it was.
I think they're still owed 80 million.
Yeah.
So let's say that 5 or 6 of the other casinos have appeals pending from 14, 13, and 12, multiple years. Will the pilot, in essence, freeze all that?
For the casino, my understanding, I taught the mayor that the Borgata is the one that's not settled yet. Everybody else is settled. But I believe they're going to still incur some debt from that, other casinos. I think they're still incurring debt. Believe me, I think this legislation, like I keep saying, it's just stopping the bleeding. And it's not going to have continued tax appeals where, you know, they won't be able to afford it. But I know there will be some more debt incurred, and I don't know exactly the number is, but I believe it's with those other casinos with tax appeals. I don't know what the whole amount is. I'll get the answer though for you.
I'm just curious because, you know, we counsel, we're fortunate to have a really good assessor, and what we focus on is not over-assessing properties. Because like you said, you got to pay back everybody's portion, not just the local purpose. And if Atlantic City's casinos have appeals pending from, you know, each of those casinos, it's hundreds of millions of dollars that the rest of the county has to make up.
Well, one of the other bills that I tried to get through was a consolidation of county tax, make, go to 100% throughout the county. And they're still working on that. My understanding, they're coming out with some type of plan. And I looked at Mays Landing, you're at 99. You guys are doing good.
We just finished a reassessment.
Thank you.
And, but when other towns are down to 50, everybody has to pick up that slack. So it becomes problematic, and they're going to have to figure out a way where we get to 100% and make it work. And the idea was, when you're at 100% valuation, everybody's paying their share.
Well, you have a lot on your plate. We appreciate your time tonight. I know you work in the best interest of all your constituents, and we thank you for your presence tonight.
Thank you, Mayor.
And come
Thank
back
you,
and
Mr.
come back and visit us again.
Yeah, do
Please.
that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Next item is adjourn to executive session. We'll do that at the end of the meeting, and we will, if applicable, we'll have a confirmation of that session. Next item, early public comment on agenda items not listed for public hearing. Nothing, sir? Thank you. Next is 5, discussions where formal action may be taken, the tax collection rate. I think it's appropriate. We should have spoken about it at the last meeting, and I know, Renee, we have complimented you and your department for the fine job they did. I know we budgeted a 97.5 collection rate, and you exceeded that, and you actually collected 98.31%, and that was fantastic, considering the overall collection rate the year before was, again, only 97.88. Generally, with all this extra tax money that you brought in, and when you consider the economy that we're dealing in today, just to fall about, 1.6 or 7% short is magnificent. And I know the work in your department that all of your people do, you'll wind up collecting most of that too, eventually this year. Because I know the type, I'd hate to be on the receiving end of your phone calls. But that excess money that we have, am I correct, Mr. Administrator and Cindy, that goes into surplus? So it'll build a surplus, which is always appreciated, and I'm sure the rest of the committee feels, as we all do, thank you. We thank you and your
Yes,
your
indeed.
department. You've done an outstanding job.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Okay. Phil, you get next. B, I hope this is an exciting presentation with pictures. Huh?
It is.
Will be pictures, Mr. Mayor, but I don't think I can compete with the excitement from the beginning.
I hear you. The Atlantic County Hamilton Township All Hazard Mitigation Plan. It's an update. Thank you, Phil.
It's coming up slowly.
You can do some warm-up stories for us, Phil.
Yeah, the green light's on.
This one.
Okay.
He did a good job. That's it. Yeah, I talked to him at the meeting that day. He's on target. He means well.
Yeah. We have it,
Okay.
Judy.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor, members of the Township Committee, members of the public. I'm here tonight along with Mike Brandenberger, who's in charge of our support division, to give you a brief update on the Township's participation in the update of the Atlantic County Multi-Jurisdictional All-Hazard Mitigation Plan.
It's a mouthful.
There's a mouthful.
That is a mouthful.
So as a planner, we're always accused of a lot of acronyms. This is going to be an acronym tonight, if you don't mind, HMP. Okay, what's hazard mitigation? says, it's the action you take to reduce long-term risk to property. And, there's always a risk out there. Natural hazards, events could occur at any time, anything from a thunderstorm, which could be area-wide or even localized to an area. We've had the derecho 2 years ago. We've had a couple hurricanes, tropical storms. Sometimes they're widespread, sometimes they're narrowly focused. The purpose of hazard mitigation is to reduce the long-term risk, basically. You can't prevent the natural hazards, but we're trying to reduce them. And you see the cycle there. Basically, what looks like an explosion, that's the disaster or the event occurring. Then you have your response, recovery, and preparation. Reality is mitigation should be 2/3 of that cycle. During your recovery, during your response, and during your preparation, you should also be taking actions to mitigate or reduce the impacts.
A question, a quick
Yes, sir.
question. I noticed it talks about natural disasters and whatnot. Is this also directed toward man-made disasters?
Sometimes man-made disasters are the equivalent of a natural disaster.
Right, so it applies to both.
I mean, example would be San Francisco, where the natural disaster, the earthquake, contributed to the fires. So, yes.
Are you talking about like oil or gas in the?
Or maybe an explosion that's wasn't caused by any natural cause, it's just a man-made cause. I just wonder whether that would be included in this hazardous mitigation plan. Obviously, if you're prepared for natural, you're better prepared
Right,
for
you're
man-made
better
also.
prepared for man-made, and sometimes it depends on circumstance. Some of the elements that we're in the process of implementing, where it's not just the physical stuff, but also the procedural and the regulations, they could also benefit on mitigation of unnatural
All right.
disasters or man-made disasters. And that's actually one of the things that coming out of Superstorm Sandy that everybody sort of realized, both on the land use planning side where I am and with emergency management. It was 2 years ago when we started with the post-Sandy planning grant. Mike and Ed Conover from the county attended some of our sessions, and we sort of realized that, we're looking at where we're going to be going, and they're looking at prevention, and we're trying to merge those two items together. And that's how I got involved with this time around. It's really melding both the future physical planning and development of the community with also the hazard mitigation. So we're trying to work both together. Some examples of what hazard mitigation could be: elevating structures in flood zones, acquisition of properties that floods, storm shutters in some areas, safe rooms, that's predominantly in areas that are heavily prone to tornadoes, soil stabilization in areas steep slopes. And there's other measures that you can put in place also. Why do it? Long-term cost savings. For every dollar we spend on a project towards mitigation, ultimately, the National Institute of Building Sciences says you save $4 in the long run. It's good for everybody in that sense. And it's one of these items that, as you go through the process, every time you have a disaster or something occurs, you take a step so that the next time it's a little less impact, and keep taking those small steps. What does the plan include? Identifying our hazards, describing the risks, and just in case anybody wants some light bedtime reading, the 2010 County Mitigation Plan is online if you want to read it. It's 560 pages long.
Light reading.
You'd be surprised, you'd never realize that there's roughly 15 to 18 potential types of disasters that they consider could reasonably occur in the county. Just think 2 years ago, who would have known we'd had an earthquake that would shake the buildings around here? So those things do occur. Then you identify your mitigation strategies to reduce key risks, and then there's the implementation part of it, which is key. Not only identifying what the strategy is and what steps are you going to take to become more sustainable and disaster resistant. This is a countywide plan. It's not just Atlantic County doing it, it's all 23 municipalities and the county, so there's 24 equal partners here. The county's the lead agency, but we get together and everybody has an equal voice on this item. And URS is the contractor the county has hired who's actually putting the plans together and submits it to FEMA on the county's behalf. Why are we doing it? It was a requirement from the Disaster Mitigation Act of 2000. The big item is right there in the middle. Makes us eligible to apply for FEMA mitigation project grants. I know we have at least one underway right now, that being the generator project here at Town Hall. That was an item that was identified in the 2000 plan. So, again, we're benefiting from that action at that time. It was approved by FEMA and adopted in 2010. There is a requirement that it be updated every 5 years, and then we should be taking the incremental steps on an ongoing basis. So right now, we'll be submitting the updated plan this year. I believe, based on our meeting just a couple weeks ago, FEMA has moved the submission deadline up to the middle of August. We do have a local jurisdictional assessment team. We'll be meeting to go through the 2010 plan. Some of the items we've already checked off, some items still to go. What aspects and projects were in there? Have we made any progress on them? If we have, how far along are we? If we haven't, is it still a valid issue? Or why haven't we done anything? In addition to Mr. Brandenberger, I know Brett's on there, Mr. Jacobs, several other staff, we've also reached out. Atlantic Cape College is participating with the township.
Great.
Again, it's something that's not just the FEMA aspect of it, but we're also tying it into our land use aspects. A great example of some things that are going on that directly tie into this are several of the communities, such as Horizons at Woods Landing and I believe Victoria Point.
Doing the Firewise.
The Firewise program.
Yep.
Perfect. That's part of it.
Yep.
So, it's more than that. And on the land use side, we have, it's something that we've got to keep in our mind also as far as future zoning and land use decisions there with our regulations. So it's tying it all together.
Would the hazard mitigation also include things like our dam?
Oh, that's number one with a bullet.
I thought so.
Yes.
I mean, it's certainly something
That is something that
should be number one, I would think.
That was the, again, in going through the 2010 plan, that was
Yeah.
item number one in Hamilton Township, Lake Lenape Dam. And again, in putting the report together, it's an ongoing project. We're
And
working with-
will you be consulting with other members of like the ESAB board, like our fire chiefs, our police chief, our OEM coordinator, dive team, like all those different aspects, kind of, will they be giving input?
We have representatives from the ESAB, and Warren is the dive team coordinator, and he's
Right.
also participating as construction official.
Right, perfect.
Again, it's great. Mike is a great lead and liaison.
Yep.
So it really helps gel both sides of the building together,
Yep.
really, on this
It's
site.
great.
Would you also, does this effort address such things? For example, suppose a gas storage facility blew up. Does your planning activities cover that kind of thing too? That would be a non-natural disaster, but certainly something that could be very consequential on a community. And maybe it does, and it sounds like it's...
That's more in the emergency response side, clearly, that, again, it's not a natural hazard that you can really anticipate or take a widespread area to minimize the impact. I do know that, in my interaction with members of the ESAB and the fire companies, that, they get in there, they train, they learn these things. Having sat through the planning board hearing with the gas company property in Egg Harbor Township, with the modifications they're doing there, there's a commitment on both sides to make sure that everybody's aware of what's going on in there, so that if there is an incident, guys aren't going in there blind. And that's the important part.
Phil, is there any monies or grants set aside for restoring curbing that certainly redirects, water into the dry catch basins or wherever it's supposed to go?
I'm not sure of all the grants that FEMA makes available and stuff like that. I don't claim to be, still learning that part of it. But if it's something that we see as having the plan to do it as part of our flood prevention, and if that money is out there, gives us the opportunity to make application for it. And they sometimes select categories for applications. I know there was one that just came up last fall, was basically was for shovel-ready projects, for improvements for disaster mitigation or flood mitigation. And it's like, I'm sitting here thinking, knowing that we've got the project around the corner with the culvert replacement, they're talking about expansion of capacity, right? I talked to Mr. Smith, and I knew we had some limitations on being able to make those culverts bigger, so it's like, I don't think we quite met the timeline on that. But those are the type of things that they come up with, and you've almost got to have some things in hand ready to go. But again, it puts us in a position to be ready and to keep our eye on the ball for those items. As far as information about the plan, these guys are the experts. Ed Conover at the Atlantic County Office of Emergency Planning and Don Weger. They're doing a great job putting this whole thing together. That's their website, aclink.org/OEP. Again, they've got the summary of the plan update on there. And a link to the whole plan, if you want to read it. And then as far as locally,
Small print.
small print. What did I say? It's myself.
For some of us.
Yeah,
Myself and Mike Brandenberger here in Town Hall. And as far as updates, I try to get them to Steve if something's going on to make sure it gets on the website. And also, for the Community Development Department, I do have a Twitter feed.
I just followed you
Followed it?
when I saw that on the
Okay.
presentation.
And I'm working on a Facebook page also to get this out there. And usually it's just for, this is what's going on, if we're having a meeting, or if there's an update that they should be aware of.
Well, we have the Hamilton Community Development that Ingrid does, and the PD has a page as well, and we have the Emergency Management
So-
Facebook page too, so maybe we can somehow
The more the
leverage.
better.
Yeah, mhm.
Mike, I see you're in the audience, thank you. Do you have anything you want to add to, or just comment?
The key is just making sure we identify all the issues in Hamilton Township. And back in 2010, I think we captured a lot of them. That's why we got the generator. Answer the question of the dam. The dam is number one on the list. It's also, that's why it's the highest priority
Right.
for
The county, yeah.
Okay.
Does this effort interface with recovery activity, recovery planning also, or is that considered a separate area?
Not directly, it doesn't directly, but it should be part of it. I mean, as part of our recovery, mitigation should be built into it. As I said before, going back to that first slide, in that cycle of disaster occurrence and response, basically your mitigation should start as part of the initial response. You assess and say, okay, what can we do better next time to keep this from happening? And then as part of the recovery and planning cycles, when the mitigation action should be implemented. So it's an ongoing process.
The elevation of homes, is that something that a grant can be obtained to do that, or does that have to come under the finances of the individuals that have homes that, they say?
Depend, as far as when the grants can come into play, or financial assistance, usually that's part of the recovery process with federal money or state money coming out on something like that. The key is, as you move forward, though, to make sure that we as the township have the rules in place so that when either homes are expanded or new construction takes place, that you're going in at elevations where it shouldn't be a problem to begin with. Not to say it won't be a problem, you can't ever say won't, but should not be. You should be above the safe elevation. And again, that's an area we've already started taking steps on that.
Just one more
The
question,
fence.
Phil. The old pack rats, I mean, he suffered quite a bit of flooding back when. I understand he got a grant to demolish his place and put a new structure there. Did that come under this mitigation too? Next to Victor's?
That came out of, again, that came out of the RREM program, and also is federal flood insurance and other state grants for that stuff, yes. And they went through the start, they're okay with that. So, again, they're in the process.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Phil.
Thank you,
you.
Phil. Appreciate the presentation. Thank you, Mike.
Thanks, Mike.
Thank you. Thanks, Lisa. The next item on the agenda is introduction of ordinances. Public hearing Tuesday, February 17, 2015, A. 1784-2015, amending Exhibit A, Section 1 of Article 2 of Chapter 66 of the Code of the Township of Hamilton, providing for the maximum number of employees. This references tax collection and finance.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any questions or comments? Can we have a roll call on that? Rita, please.
Yes. Ms. Gatto?
Yes.
Mr. Gishard?
Yes.
Mr. Kurtz?
Yes.
Mrs. Link?
Yes.
Mayor Silva?
Yes.
All ayes. Public hearing is Tuesday, February 17th.
Okay, next item is the consent agenda, A through I.
I'd like to move 7A with the additions through I.
Have a motion?
Second.
Motion is second. Any questions or comments? I have one. The addition was for I. Michael, that was authorized the bidding of the solid waste collection services, correct? Is there anything in particular?
We have, this is our last year in the current, so it takes longer than normal.
Okay, so this year's taken care of, so this would be bidding for 2016 on. Okay.
And staying with automated trash collection?
Yeah, that's same spec. Okay, thank you. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion's carried.
Mr. Mayor, I just want to also point out, in the consent, we did just approve two key dates for the Mays Landing Merchants Association. The hometown celebration will be Saturday, June 27th. I'm assuming the 28th may be, are we going to do 2 days again? Okay, 2 days. And then one of my favorites too, the Waterfront Wine and Food Festival, September 26th and 27th. So mark your calendars.
Absolutely.
Okay, good, okay. Nothing on the personnel approvals. First one was, on the late list, was the January the 6th, 2014 regular meeting minutes.
So moved.
Have a motion? Do I have a second?
Second, but just a question, I guess. Is 9A going to be both dates?
No, I'm going to take them separately,
Okay.
because it's a different year on each one, okay?
They're just both listed as 9A, that's
Yeah,
what I said.
right, I'll make it, yeah.
Sorry.
Okay, wait a minute.
Right.
Okay. Yeah.
Do we have a motion on that?
We already have a motion and second on
Okay. All
the
those,
January 6th.
all those in, do we need a roll call on that, Bob?
I would, because
Since
you have an
it's-
exclusion.
Yeah, Rita, please.
Ms. Gatto?
Yes.
Mr. Gishard?
Yes.
Mr. Kurtz?
Yes. Oh, I can't abstain.
Mrs. Link?
Yes.
Mayor Silva?
Yes.
Make a motion for January 20th, 2015 regular meetings?
Second.
Motion is second. Any questions or comments? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Payroll and bills totaling $1,275,259.18.
So moved.
Second.
Motion is second. Any questions or comments? Roll call, Rita, please.
Ms. Gatto?
Yes.
Mr. Gishard?
Yes.
Mr. Kurtz?
Yes.
Mrs. Link?
Yes.
Mayor Silva?
Yes.
All ayes and
Thank you. Reports. Mr. Administrator?
I have nothing to add to the.
Thank you. Mr. Solicitor?
Nothing to add.
Thank you.
Mayor, nothing to add to my written report.
Thank you. John?
Well, I just wanted to, I had a chance before the meeting to have a few words with our Assemblyman, Mr. Mazzio, and I just wanted to comment on, it's amazing when you look at Atlantic City and you realize how the effects of what happens over there directly affects our community and our businesses. Our businesses in the township, a lot of small businesses have taken a pretty direct hit with the number of employees that have been laid off with the casinos. Many of them employees live right here in our township. Some of the developments are, quite a large number of those people are in those developments. And it's something that, it's very, very good to see that the comments being made are something, hopefully, that's going to rectify it. Personally, I was hoping that a manager wasn't appointed over there, because I had a lot of faith in our mayor guardian. I think he was on the right track for seeing a way clear in Atlantic City to make things better. And now we're just going to have to wait and see. I heard rumblings today that the Miss America pageant might not come back to Atlantic City after fighting to get it back here last year. I'm certainly hoping that's not true also. But what happens over there is a direct effect on what we can do here in the township too. Thank you.
Agreed, thank you. Rod?
Yeah, and just to follow up a little bit on John's comments, in terms of the effect on the community, there have been, I think they've identified about 9,000 jobs that have been lost. But those 9,000 jobs, there's support people that support that, and their families associated with that. So when you actually look at it, you're probably talking in the area of 20,000 people. Very, very significant. It's a big hit. And I share John's feeling about the mayor and the appointment of this manager. I think most people have said the mayor was doing a good job. I certainly heard him speak several times, and he has been doing a good job. Now, why we have to bring somebody that we didn't elect to make decisions, I'm very disappointed at that. But on the more positive side, I think I mentioned once before that there is a plan being put together. I attended a meeting at the country club, what is it, Linwood Country Club, with was probably over 100 people from the community. The county, a year and a half ago, decided that something needed to be done, so they initiated an effort to put together a plan, and you heard it addressed. I think Mr. Kyle, the deputy executive, played a big role in this. They put that plan together. They went out on a competitive bid to find someone to lead this overall effort. The most qualified bidder was also the cheapest, which is an unusual situation. It doesn't happen very often, and that's a place called Angelo Economics. They're one of the biggest in the country, and perhaps the biggest. They've had a tremendous track record. Angelo Angelou, who's the leader of this organization, started with Austin and was the principal planner for the city of Austin, Texas. And I don't know how many have been there, but I'm sure you've read. I mean, you have glowing reports about it. When he started with planning, and the population was 500, and I think it was 85,000. It's now up around 2.1 million. And everyone you talk to says it's just a beautiful place. Now, he will be the first to tell you that, you know, people come up and compliment him on it, and he says, no, it's not me. There are 3,000 people helping with that.
Wow.
And he likes to make a distinction between residents and citizens. He says there are 3,000 citizens that help with it. And a resident is somebody that lives there and pays the taxes, but a citizen is someone who also contributes to the well-being of the community. He made a point of saying that he's looking to the whole area, the whole region, and he's going to be looking for those citizens, and he says that if at the end of this session we've got a team, that we feel like we're a team, then he'll feel very happy. The plan is quite comprehensive. The initial part includes interviewing people, and I think he interviewed, the week I was there, the plan was to interview over 400 people. And the second part of the plan would be to identify key industries in this area. And I think there were 8 that were noted, but of those 8, he only wants to concentrate on 4 or 5 to really develop those areas. So he's going to be doing that. There's, you heard Amy mentioned, I think, the Atlantic County Action Now. Atlantic county?
Judy mentioned it.
I
yeah.
mentioned that, Rodney.
Okay, Judy, Action Now. There is a website, and I believe on that website, and I have to do this myself, you'll have an opportunity to fill out a survey if you're so inclined, but you certainly can get up to date on what's going on. The plan is to have a plan sometime in the July timeframe, and this will not just be a plan. Mr. Angelo made the point that just having a plan won't do it. This is going to be something which has actions, it has a number of actions, it has three possible strategic approaches to each action. It identifies who's in charge and who the organizations are. I mean, it sounds very comprehensive.
Sounds like we could have just brought in Dr. Kesselman to do our strategic planning process and maybe led the path there, but sounds
Well,
very similar.
this company sounds quite qualified.
Yeah.
So I think it's exciting, and I would encourage everyone, and by the way, we need to play a key role in this. There were, I think, the 23 municipalities that they were going to be working with in the area. We're all part of this, and we all need to work together, and they're going to be trying to identify key industries for the whole area, the whole region. And we certainly need to be a part of it, and I'm going to look to do what I can to help. So just thought I'd mention that. I think it's encouraging, and we can look forward to, I think, some good results. Aside from that, just let me mention that the Sustainable New Jersey activity and our green team are attending a get-together tomorrow on Route 50 at L's Restaurant, which is in the Corbin City area. Certainly anyone who's interested in that, I would encourage to come join it. The group is doing very well, and Perez is an active part of it. And I would all.
You're attending a meeting at the L, or?
Yeah, well, I'm attending, and I'm just saying it's open to others.
So the green team is having a meeting outside of
Well,
Hamilton
this
Township?
is beyond the green team. It's
beyond the green team.
Yeah, it's the area.
Okay.
It actually is being hosted by Upper Township, if I'm not mistaken, but all the local communities, and you'll find a lot of great people there, and so I would encourage anybody who wants to attend. I can certainly give you the address. I think Ingrid could also. And just let me, one more thing, mention that we attended a meeting in Fairways, and Mr. Schmidt, who's the property manager, I guess,
He's
the
a
president.
Resident Association.
Okay, he invited me over there, and he happened to mention that he was a part of the strategic planning activity. And he thought there would be people who might there be interested in resuming those activities, and I would certainly like to do that also. But the biggest problem, which I seem to always face, is communication, how we get the word out. And maybe that should be the first activity of a strategic planning group, is to figure out how we communicate and how we get the word out to the public.
Well, yeah, advertised. I mean, we've done it before, but we can get into that. Judy?
Rodney and I attended that meeting at the Linwood Country Club, and it was sponsored by the Greater Atlantic County Chamber of Commerce. And a lot of people were there handing their cards out and, communicating as far as their businesses were concerned. And I really feel as though, let me see, I'm going back to Lenape Park and its former days of hiring 100 people to be employed during the summer, especially our younger generation. And if we have a combination of government and economics, I don't know to what a degree, and it's all very nebulous, but I'd like to see something happening every day at Lenape Park during the year, not just twice a year. I'd like to see some programs that, will generate some business for the community, some revenue for the Atlantic County, and some jobs for Atlantic County. So you know, I see a different thing that has been left out of the picture for a long time. And I think it's doable. I think it can be done. I just would like the opportunity to share my ideas. So,
Thank you, Judy. Amy?
Okay. I want to call to your attention that I am wearing red tonight as a reminder to everybody that on Friday, February 6th, it is Go Red for Women, which is awareness with regard to the American Heart Association. And this really came to the forefront when the heart of probably our office, Lisa, had a personal battle of her own and has been a tremendous advocate for the American Heart Association. So on Friday, I encourage everybody to please wear red in honor of this cause. And you can stop by the administrator's office at any point until then to make a donation and get this amazing pin that has to do with the Go Red movement. And all the donations, which are, by the way, tax deductible, will be used to support awareness, education, community programs to help women learn about and lower their risk of heart disease. So please, everybody, make a note, wear red on Friday, and stop in this week and get your pin and make that nice donation as we have a new year and you need to build up your new tax deductions. So that is my Wear Red plug. And the other thing is, I just wanted to mention that we got some kudos this, and I'm sorry.
Bless you.
Bless you. Sorry, Mike Brandenberger's not still here, but with particular to dispatch, I heard we had a very busy weekend on top of the devastating fire that happened out in Weymouth this weekend. And on top of that, there was a lot of other things going on, and I got some particular feedback that our dispatchers just did a really incredible job, and it's always nice to take a moment just to recognize the work that they do, as well as all of our first responders and the like. So with that, everybody wish a happy President's Day and a happy Valentine's Day and all of the stuff that's going on in the month of February. That's it.
You know, it's interesting because Rodney brought up a good point. We were both at the Fairways last Sunday, not this past Sunday, the Sunday before, and what's amazing, when they have a meeting out there, they get 170 people or more come out to their meetings. They're very involved people. They care about their township, they care about their neighborhood, and they're very progressive thinking. I mean, they brought to our attention many issues about what came up earlier with the roads that you spoke about, about the traffic lights, about the traffic. And obviously, many of them have lived in there for the last 13 or 14 years, and they remember when Cates Road wasn't cut all the way through to West Jersey. And of course, you know, nor was some of the other subdivisions completed. But very interesting group of people. I think they really like living in this community. They're very concerned about everything that's going on. And we both had an opportunity to fill them in on the impact of Atlantic City and what we're looking at, the closing of the race course, which obviously, you know, will have some impact throughout the area. But it was funny because Ronnie mentioned strategic planning. I happen to pull out all my notes and all the PowerPoints on strategic planning this week and start reviewing them. And, you know, the thing that comes to mind is it was such a great session, number of sessions we had. It went on for the better part of a year, and they came out with their recommendations. And it were those recommendations that helped this township get on a firm financial footing. And I think it's a lot of those recommendations, if we stay true to them, they will keep us in a direction where we will at least be sustainable. And I mean, I personally am thankful for it, and I talked to Harvey a couple weeks ago, and he did mention that at some point he'd like to reconvene the group, and I know Bruce talked to me about it at one time too, and get together and go back over some of that stuff and see what we can brush up on and how we can carry it forward. So hopefully in the next couple of months, and obviously Amy and I have been talking about it being part of the Finance Committee, that probably toward the end of the month, we'd like to get together and start looking at everything. I don't think it's too soon to look at the financial position that this township is in compared to what could come out of the plan that the Assemblyman spoke about tonight. Obviously, we don't know where the schools are and what the schools will be looking at, and there's meetings planned to be meeting with the different superintendents and their business agents and members of their board to try to bring more to the forefront how strong of an issue it is that we have to deal with in the township. Obviously, you've seen that PowerPoint and that picture of the bill that I think Renee has on their window of how much of the taxes we're responsible for and how much the schools are and how much the county. We're only responsible, basically, we are responsible to collect all of it, as we talked about tonight, but 30% of that dollar is a little over 30% is ours. 52, 53% is the schools, the other 17 to 19% is the county. Now, what disturbed me this week, and I will tell you, and I don't mind speaking about it, was when I heard that the county introduced their budget, and of course their budget was $201.2, and if you look at their budgets from when we first sat on this committee from 2008 till today, they started at $174 million. They've raised their budget over $25.2 million. That almost equals to our budget here. That is something that has to bring to everybody's attention of why is it happening? Can't something be done about it? I mean, we talk about the schools. We have to look at the county. The county's got to take an accounting of everything they're doing. I mean, I do get tired of hearing they had 14 years of perfect audits. That's fine. But I like to see 14 years of a decreasing budget. I mean, we've been able to take ours down little by little each year and pay our debt down, and those were actually the recommendations of strategic planning, was to stop spending, pay down debt, and to be financially accountable. And I think we have to stay on that path if we're going to continue to be successful or at least sustain our community. When all the other communities, and you saw the Assemblyman smile tonight when he said he looked at where we stand with regard to our assessed values in this township, we're doing very well. And I think we'll be one of the townships that hopefully will be able to weather this thing in a way in which we don't burden our taxpayers too much. So with that, I'll open it up to the public. Anyone in the public wish to make any comments?
Move to close public portion.
Second.
Motion is second, and questions or comments? All those in favor?
Aye.
All right.
Okay. Okay. With that, we want to adjourn into executive session. Rita?
Be it resolved by the Township Committee of the Township of Hamilton that this meeting be adjourned to an executive session to discuss the following matters, which are exempt from public discussion pursuant to the New Jersey Open Public Meetings Law. 1, personnel matter regarding maintenance carpenter. 2, collective bargaining agreement, Teamsters, January 1, 2015, December 31st, 2017. 3, memorandum of agreement, Teamsters, 2014 wages. Be it further resolved that the governing body will reconvene in public session and confirm the results of the executive session if there is a majority consensus for action to be taken on the matter tonight.
So moved.
Second.
The motion is second. We will convene and we will adjourn to executive session. We can